Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gayle Carson, that's Gayle, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter.
Hello, everyone. Today I have the honor of interviewing authors from the Miami International Book Fair, and my guest today is Carol Fulp. She is the author of Success Through Diversity. Interacting with people who are different from you will prove valuable to you and your organizations. Companies that proactively embrace diversity in all areas of operations will be best poised to thrive. She explores staffing trends in the U.S. and provides a blueprint for what businesses must do to maintain their competitiveness and customer base, including hiring in new ways and providing new kinds of leadership development. Welcome, Carol. It's an honor to have you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Carson. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
I have heard more about diversity and inclusiveness in the past 12 months than I've probably heard in the last 12 years. And a friend of mine, that's what her specialty is. She goes all over the world speaking about inclusiveness and diversity. And so I'm very interested in this subject. And I'm just wondering, let's talk about why you wrote this in the first place.
Well, first of all, my focus is on ethnic diversity and inclusion. There's so many areas of diversity. As you know, gender diversity, sexual orientation, religion, all kinds of diversity. But I chose to focus on ethnic diversity. I'm a woman of color myself, and there has been so much change in our country, and our demographics are changing. In addition, our global marketplaces are coming into bear more and more. And so I wanted to focus on the changing demographics of our country and the opportunity to increase our global marketplace share.
So is this something that you have studied for a long time? Is this something that kind of just hit you? This is something that we need to talk about now. Tell us your background so that we understand why you wrote this.
Well, my focus, my experience has always been in business. So I look at this issue from a business perspective. I started my career at the Gillette Company. I then moved to the ABC TV affiliate in Boston in human resources and community programming, and then moved to John Hancock Financial Services, where I headed up corporate responsibility. I then was selected by President Obama as his U.S. representative to the United Nations. And that's a post that Eleanor Roosevelt held, Coretta Scott King held, and I had the privilege of holding for a year. And when you stand at that iconic podium and you look out amongst the sea of ambassadors, it really hits you about the diversity of the world. It hits you about the world being so full of individuals of color. And so when I came back to Boston, my calling, I was called to help this city look more like the United Nations, where there were so many people of color, Caucasians, where everyone focused on making their environments better.
You know, it's interesting. I went to school in Boston. I'm a graduate of Emerson College. So,
Oh,
yeah, so I know
great
exactly what
school.
you're talking about. And it is a great school. I mean, I really credit it with so much of who I am today. So I have to say, yay, yay for Emerson.
And
Uh,
you're in the field. You're in the
yes,
field.
I am in the field. That's right. And, you know, it's interesting because right now I'm living in Miami, and you couldn't get a more diversified
Yes.
group of people than Miami. I mean, not only not only in terms of color, but also in terms of you know, with the Hispanic, it's just amazing. The Hispanic,
Culture. Hmm.
yeah, the culture and everybody, even though they're all Hispanics, they all have a different culture. So
Yes.
it's really interesting. I mean, they can tell where each other is from just by dialects and words they use and so forth. Just like in the States, we say, you know, we can tell somebody who's Southern by how they
Yes.
talk, you
Yes.
know, and so forth. And the Bostonians with the park the car
Yes.
and all of
Yes.
that, you know.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, so I think, I mean, you've had some really, really not only responsible positions, but interesting positions. I mean, they are things to really be extremely proud of. So, what prompted you to write this, however, because you've been exposed to this for a long time. You were involved with the subject for a long time. So, what kind of sparked that little push to get the book out?
Well, now I'm CEO of a diversity consulting firm that's been in existence for 30 years. And it actually was started out of our busing crisis here in Boston. And the mayor of the city really felt in order to, at that time, advance African Americans, we really needed to have individuals move up within corporate. And so the partnership was created. We have since expanded to really assist all ethnicities. So here at the partnership, we work with corporations and help provide leadership development for their executives and professionals of color. And we also help organizations provide climates where professionals of color can thrive. And so much has been learned as I worked with a variety of different corporations that I decided to put down on paper the best practices that I have seen in different companies.
Well, I'll tell you, the book is very interesting, and it really, I think, makes people aware. You know, there are a lot of people who think they're aware. I mean, you know, we say we're not living, you know, in the dark ages, and we certainly see all the material that's out there, and we think we're aware, and we think we know what we're doing, and we think we know how to do it. But that's not necessarily true, because we all, whether we want to admit it or not, we have certain biases, and
Yes.
biases come from experiences, you know, and I was brought up in a situation. I was brought up in Albany, New York. That's my hometown,
Hmm.
and I really never knew, which is very naive, but I really never knew about the differences because I was never taught there was a difference. Now I can tell you there was not one African American student in my grammar school, which was at that time kindergarten through eighth grade. And then I went to what was called then a junior high school for 1 year, which was ninth grade, and then of course into senior, which was the 10th through the 12th. And it wasn't until I got to my freshman year that I actually saw black students. I mean,
Mm.
that was the way it was. But um, my mother had never said there was a difference.
Mm.
We did have a cleaning woman who was black, but she was always part of the family. She was, she had lunch with us and she joked with us and she was invited to our parties. And I mean, there was just never a difference. So I did not know and I was not aware of all the different biases. And then when I went to high school, there were black students, of course, and but they were not necessarily in my classes because I was in advanced placement and that kind of thing. When I went to Emerson, this was very interesting.
Mhm.
When I went to Emerson, you know what a blend that is. And there
Mhm.
was everything from gay students, black students,
Mhm.
Asian
Mhm.
students,
Mhm.
and it was just that's the way it was. It was all accepted. There was no differentiation. And as a matter of fact, when I moved into an apartment, which was a no-no, by the way, I was kind of doing it in secret, there was a guy living next door who also went to Emerson and had a motorbike. And the subway was 25 cents, which was a lot of money to me back
Ah!
then. And so on the back of his motorbike, he would take me to school every day. And so it never, ever occurred to me that there was a difference until I moved to Miami in 1959 and I saw the first signs of color water fountains,
Yes.
colored bathrooms, colored this and that. And it was such a shock to me because I had never seen it. You can be aware but until you see it, it is not
Right.
the same. It is not the same. And so I just thought this was amazing. Now, my first business in Miami was a modeling school, and I accepted a black student. She was not young. I mean, she was in her early 20s. And she told me that I was the first school that she had gone to that would accept her. And I was aghast. I had no
Wow.
idea that I was like breaking a barrier because to me it was just every day. And so and she came, I did a fashion tour of Europe and took all these students, not all these students, but students around the country to like Paris and Rome and Milan and so forth and so on. And she was my roommate. She and I roomed together.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, you know, that's why when people talk about diversity, I sometimes think, what is this all about? We're all people. And so it was really a learning experience for me to understand why people had difficulty with inclusion and why people made a difference about people because I had just never really
It
experienced
came it came naturally to you.
exactly,
It
exactly,
right. It came naturally to you. And even though your early years did not have a lot of people of difference in them as you were exposed, it was just a natural experience for you. And so much so that when someone came to your employ, you naturally accepted them. It wasn't a difference for you.
exactly. So what I'm asking you is how are you approaching all of this in today's world?
Well, your story is an interesting one, and I'm glad that you shared it because, Dr. Carson, it's not everyone's story. Um, so many individuals have experiences where they are comfortable with perhaps just the people they know or the type of people they know because that's who they grew up with. And so what might form unconsciously, they may have unconscious bias towards a certain type of people. If you're a man, you might prefer to employ men because you're a man. If you are a white male, you might prefer to hire whites. And so what we do is try to ensure businesses understand the business value of having a diverse workforce. First of all, the workforce demographics are changing. At the end of the day, as a business person, you want to hire the best talent of all kinds. It doesn't matter what racial identity they are. In this competitive environment, you want the best talent. And unless you have an environment that is accepting of diversity, you're not going to be able to attract diverse talent. They're going to go where they feel valued. So it has been said, given our changing demographics, that if your organization is not diverse, in 10 years, you could be out of business because your competitors are going to be diverse and be able to attract that best talent, and you won't. Let me just share demographics with you. Right now, there are more babies of color born in this country than Caucasians. The U.S. Census Bureau indicates by 2042 there will be more people of color than Caucasians. So our workforce is changing. And when we look at millennials, there are more millennials of color than there are baby boomers of color. And so there are more millennials in the workforce than baby boomers. And so as we look at new generations, they're more and more diverse. So from a talent perspective, you want that best talent of all kinds. Secondly, you look at these global marketplace. We are not just selling to the U.S. We're selling our goods and products and services across the world. And so you want individuals in your companies that are reflective of those markets so that they can produce the goods and services that those global markets need. And in addition, it's really important to note there's 3 studies that are out. The McKinsey study indicated that the more diverse companies are more profitable. They did a report in 2015, and they did a report again in 2018 and found that held, and it was even more so. The more diverse your company, the more profitable. So diversity now is tied to profits, to economics. And then there's a new report out from the University of North Carolina that links diversity to innovation. The more diverse companies, on average, produce, more patents than the least diverse companies. So again, the more diverse companies are more innovative and are producing these new patents, these new products. And that's because you have all different types of people in the organization who all are thinking differently, and you're getting all different types of ideas as opposed to having one type of people of any kind where you tend to have more group think. So at the end of the day, diversity is just good for business, and we want to look at it from a business perspective.
You know, it is true that diversity does, of course, create innovation. I firmly believe that. And interestingly, though, this is going to also create other circumstances. I mean, you're seeing more black and white couples together.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that produces children who are mixed,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's a whole other issue. And it just goes on and on. There's just so many different things that are a result of all of this, all of which are not negatives. I mean, they're positives, but it does take some new ways of thinking for a lot of people. So my question to you is, since you've been around doing these, what do you credit your ability to rise to the positions that you have in a culture that was not necessarily welcoming?
Well, the way that I frame it is this way. I try to say, as a person of difference, I have had to learn at at an early age, how to overcome obstacles that were thrown in my path. At the age of 12, I remember the first time it hit me. I have had to overcome obstacles that have been thrown in my path through no fault of my own, because of my race, because of my gender. So I've had to learn early how to skillfully navigate complicated and difficult situations. I've also understood what it means to be left out. So from a managerial perspective, I don't want anyone to feel left out. So as a manager, I try to be as inclusive as possible. And so if someone is quiet in a meeting, I try to pull them in. So being a person of difference has made me want to make sure to include everyone, and that has helped with my managerial skills. The other thing I can say is that as a person of difference, I can read a room like this because I've had to I've had to quickly assess, what do I have here? Who's going to be with me? Who do I have to convince and talk to and bring along? Well, nothing I say will matter. I can't convince and should not spend time with. So I've learned those skills. And I've said to CEOs, wouldn't you want people like that in your organization leading your teams? And so that's what people of difference can offer you. That's what I've had the opportunity to learn along the way. And quite frankly, I've had the benefit of having some really wonderful CEOs who believed in me. And I would not be here if they did not believe in me.
Well, that's interesting. I was laughing because I was thinking, when you were talking about reading a room, I was thinking of the TV show Bull, where he can figure out what the juries are going to vote and how they feel towards a person on the stand and so forth. And I was thinking that's really an amazing and wonderful skill to have, especially when you're walking into new situations, because I mean, it's just fabulous. So you've written this book, and you're now involved with a consulting firm that concentrates on diversity, et cetera. Where is Carol going to be in 5 years? What does Carol want to be doing?
Well, what is so important for me, Dr. Carson, is to help the next generation of executives. And it is multicultural. It's Black, white, Latino, and just to help them to be like the United Nations and to be able to work together and advance and to continue have this country be number one. And that's the only way we are going to really excel in this country, to move past whatever differences we have and to celebrate our individualities and respect each other, work together, and advance our country together. And that's where I will be with our next generation of executives.
Well, I can't fight with that. You said it very well. So again, I want to tell our listening audience, my guest has been Carol Fulp, that's spelled Fulp, and her book is Success Through Diversity. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or at your local
Yes.
bookstore. It's a real good read for people who are dealing with racially and ethnically diverse workforces. It will help you make better decisions and get better results. So thank you so much for being with us today, Carol. It has been a delight.
And thank you for all your work, Dr. Carson.
Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.